Welcome once again to the Shadow Fire Promotions podcast, Front Row Ringside. My name is Greg Dennis. I am the president of Shadow Fire Promotions. So we skipped last week, unintentional. We skipped it. It was one of those things like kind of that Mindy McCready song, guys do it all the time. Time just slipped away from me. It ended up getting towards midweek. It looks like it's going to get that way again. I certainly prefer to have this thing dropping every Monday, but sometimes things just happen. So if you're streaming this, downloading it from iTunes, stream it on YouTube, Vimeo, I know I get a lot of views on Vimeo, Daily Motion, our own website, the Technopoly 411 website run by my good buddy Nicholas Wardier. If you're there, hey, drop us a line, podcast at sfpinchicago.com, like SFP, like Shadow Fire Promotions. Drop us a line, let us know where you're coming from, where you found us on Vimeo, whatever, where you're located, and what you think. Always make sure to leave feedback for everything, because let us know what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, what we're going to change, because some of that can be taken into account. The one thing that we're not going to do is we're not going to be another one of those podcasts that sits there and just kind of gives our own star rating to everything off of Monday Night Raw and SmackDown and all that, because realistically it's not something that I want to do. There's 10 million other guys that do that. I don't think my opinion has any more weight than anyone else, and I'm not trying to replace Dave Meltzer and be giving star ratings to matchups. That's his thing. I don't really see any reason why I need to be like that. Some current event stuff. Nikola Tesla, who is the inventor of radio, he's also the namesake for the band Tesla. He had a birthday last Monday. Don't know how old he would have been, but he would have been pretty old. Ken Stabler of the NFL, he was a quarterback, number 69. He died of colon cancer just recently. The actor Omar Sharif, whose real name was actually Michel Dimitri Chaloub, he passed away. He died shortly after suffering a heart attack in a hospital in Cairo, Egypt. He was 83, so he was a nice ripe old age. He was kind of famous for Lawrence of Arabia and Dr. Zhivago. He was actually Greek of Lebanese descent, so that's the unusual name right there. So anyway, let's go back to wrestling. Here's the kind of where current events meets wrestling. Obviously, everyone knows that Donald Trump has thrown his hat in the ring for president. Thrown his hat in the ring, pun unintended. I just realized that now. And he disclosed his full net worth, which is $10 billion. That's billion with a B, and certainly more worth, certainly way more than Vince McMahon. They had their Battle of the Billionaires a few years ago at WrestleMania. I think it was 22 or 23, if I'm not mistaken. I don't have it all in front of me here, but it's definitely, I would say almost definitely way more than Vince McMahon. Just a little side note there. So anyway, I'm kind of skipping around here because there's a lot of stuff going on, but there's not, it's all kind of brief blurbs here. One of my things that I don't understand, and maybe someone can help me, is stores that exist only on Facebook. The same thing applies to indie wrestling federations. They only exist on Facebook. They have no website, nothing else. They exist solely on Facebook. And I can't help but think, gosh, that's kind of silly, because no one's going to notice you outside of Facebook. And in Facebook, depending on whether you're a page or a personal profile, it's going to largely depend on whether you get noticed or not. But I don't really see how they get noticed. I know that a friend of mine in Indianapolis area used to run a federation. He said, I deal with everyone on Facebook. I don't have everyone's telephone number. Everything I do is on Facebook. And I said, well, that's different. But what happens if a guy is going to be late, or if a guy can't make it? Is he only going to, what if the guy's in a car wreck? Is he going to give you a message on Facebook? maybe I'm just too old, but I'm like, shouldn't you have these guys' phone numbers? I mean, only dealing with them on the computer. I'd rather have the interaction, especially if it's someone I'm going to be working with and paying money out to. So if you got feedback on that, if you're one of those wrestling federations who doesn't have a website and only has Facebook, go ahead and drop me a line at podcast@sfpinchicago.com and tell me how you managed to pull that stunt off. Just because it seems like it's very difficult to do in terms of going and trying to do all this stuff and staying like getting people to notice you. It just seems very strange to me, but hey, well, maybe I'm wrong. Anyway, so yeah, if you want to email me at podcast@sfpinchicago.com, that would be terrific. Let me know. Let me know all about how you managed to go and survive as a Facebook-only wrestling promotion, and how that works for you. And that's serious. How does that work for you? Does it work well? It is something where you say, gee, this is only kind of temporary till we get a web page. Let me know how that all kind of works out. If it's something that you say, oh, we're doing outstanding, we don't need anything. So hey, if that's the case, then that's terrific. And if not, well, hey, let me know how that goes for you too. Anyway, moving on. So we're going to go and kind of skip around a little bit here. Obviously, Jeff Jarrett has returned to Total Nonstop Action Wrestling. He won the King of the Mountain not too long ago, kind of his signature match. And a lot of people are pointing it as the end of Total Nonstop Action Wrestling, because it's pretty much well known that they're not getting renewed on Destination America. So a lot of people are saying, well, it's the end, and it probably is, because it's very difficult to run a successful wrestling promotion without television exposure. Even on the independent level, it's very, very difficult to do such. Would it hurt wrestling overall? Absolutely, without a doubt. I mean, the more wrestling in the world, the merrier. So, by far, this is something that if it happens, not good. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I mean, they may get another TV deal somewhere, but they've only been on Destination America for a year. I mean, and Spike basically kicked them off the air to get Bellator. So I don't know what, it's 1 million eyeballs. It's about 1 million eyeballs. That's not bad. But obviously there's cheaper stuff in a Rerun of Cops or some other reality show or something else that gets 1 million people too. So we'll see what happens there. But something that's interesting about the TNA and the competition for WWE and everything, what I find sort of amusing is how Vince McMahon talks about how he thrives on competition, but when he does have competition, whether it be World Championship Wrestling or Total Nonstop Action or else, he doesn't really care for that. He doesn't want to have them, and he does his best to crush them. And it's like, well, gee, okay, you're the better promotion, but where's your competition now? And as it's been proven, when he is not challenged creatively, he goes back to kind of old standby stuff, and you get a very bland product as a result. So speaking of TV wrestling, I have a question, and I want everyone who's listening to this, email me at podcast@sfpinchicago.com and let me know about this one, because I'm curious about this. For people who go and say, okay, in case you missed it, here's all the results of TV, here's Raw's results, SmackDown's results. How many people really do this? Because I see that every so often, and I'm like, really? Aren't there enough people out there that are copying the results of the show and they're probably copying it off of each other more than likely. Or taking it from Dave Meltzer or someone else. And I'm thinking, wow, I guess I can't really see where that would be something that's going to put a lot of eyeballs on page. I guess if you want to say, oh, good, this is nothing important, or oh, wow, this happened. I suppose I don't really see kind of a point in it, but whatever. But with WWE, something that's funny, that I find most funny, is how many people are the die-hard loyalists, like, oh, the company can do no wrong, and everything Vince McMahon touches turns to gold, and it's like, I'm not really. It's a nice little thing to put across and push across your history, but it's just not true. And one of the examples of that is Terry Taylor, who had won several titles, in everywhere he went, and was kind of groomed to be, and he was an NWA. I know he was a television champion in the Universal Wrestling Federation, and he was a National Wrestling Alliance North American champion, which is kind of like the man beneath Ric Flair for that territory. So unfortunately, he became a bird in WWE, and that pretty much killed his career. Just came to a screeching halt after that, because he never really recovered. But everyone wants to defend Terry Taylor as the Red Rooster, saying, well, not every gimmick is going to be a winner. And I know that it was pointed out to me in a YouTube video, oh, well, Bruce Pritchard said that he should have taken it more serious because, Vince gave it to him. It's like, well, how serious do you take being a wrestling bird? It's like wrestling plumbers and wrestling hockey players and all this, and this kind of brings me to my next thing. I get such a kick out of people that, they pretty much watched it fanatically and then kind of stopped watching after that and say, well, I've seen it all, there's nothing else new. It's like, wow, you watched for a couple of years and damn, you're like the expert and stuff. But someone had wrote something very interesting that I wanted to go and kind of share brief snippets of and tell me what you think about this. The person says they've been a fan since 1990 and stopped watching around 2008. They had grown completely bored because they said they pretty much seen it all and there's nothing new to see that he hadn't seen in the past 18 years before. Now here's what's the interesting part. It says a primary issue is that there are primarily two classifications of fan. One who watch for entertainment and one who says that they watch it because they truly believe it's a sport. And they're saying, and this person says, well, the second classification is anyone who's an internet fan and, they only watch it for the technical matches and they never get bored of seeing the same repetitive stuff because they're watching it for the athletic aspect. And they're happy with, basically, he put Bryan Danielson, but you could have a Steve Austin too, black trunks, black boots, or Goldberg, black trunks, black boots, but I guess, they want put on 5-star matches, and he said, the first classification is that I was this person, he says, I was this person. I watch and appreciate wrestling for the entertainment. I love the gimmicks and the characters and the feuds and everything, and I never looked at it being a sport, and I think it's silly that anyone would ever want to view it as a sport, and it's never going to be accepted by mainstream America or overseas as a sport. The general public will never treat it as mainstream, so why bother? You just go full steam and embrace it for lowbrow entertainment. And I think that's not necessarily true because certainly, in Mexico and Japan, it's huge, and it is very mainstream in those countries. It's pretty mainstream in England too. We're kind of the only, in Canada. So to sit there and say, no one will ever accept it and no one will ever treat it as a sport, it's just not true. Because there's plenty of other countries that do, and they're very serious, and it's very much a part of the landscape. of the pop culture, and he's mentioning all these gimmicks and were entertaining, and even though they weren't five-star talents in the ring, it didn't matter because they had gimmicks and they were entertaining, and it wasn't important because wrestling is not a sport, and they entertain, and people wonder why crowds are getting smaller and smaller and quieter. And if you turn wrestling into sport, fans leave in greater numbers every year because it's not as likely to keep mainstream fans watching as opposed to making it entertainment. And he's saying that's why. And what I think is funny about that is, first off, the crowds are not dwindling. WWE is doing better than they've ever been. It's something that I touched on a couple of podcasts ago, when someone said, the wrestling business is dying, WWE is getting stale and repetitive, and, the business is going to die soon, and in like 5 years, WWE is going to fold up shop, and I'm wondering, have you seen their latest stock prospectus? They're not doing bad financially. They're doing pretty good. They've got this big thing with the WWE Network and all these other things. They're not going anywhere. And part of wrestling, and I think I mentioned it, part of wrestling is much like a movie. You have to have memorable characters, but you have to have believable characters too. If they're not believable, the thing about the Legion of Doom that made the Legion of Doom so entertaining was it went in there and they basically just demolished, everyone who was in their way. Same thing with the Ultimate Warrior. He went in there and in 50 seconds, the guy was down. It was like, damn, sure, it's not a 5-star match, it's not an hour-long match, but, it's not like you don't want a roster of 50 Ultimate Warriors and say, well, I just watch it because it's entertainment. And my opinion is that it's not a sport, and so it isn't, and it's silly that anyone else would ever want to think it's a sport, and it'll never be accepted, and it's like it kind of sort of is accepted. It's not accepted as a sport, but for many years it was. Right up until the 80s, there was passionate people about wrestling. So to sit and say it'll never be accepted is not only very broad, but it's very inaccurate as well. Okay, so let's see what else we got here today. Gosh, we got a shorter time than I thought. I'm kind of amazed at this one, but wow. Anyway, it's funny about that. So anyhow, here's something that's very, very interesting, and let me see if I can pull it up. A good friend of mine, Jay Figaro, he had shared a story about Bob Backlund and what a down-to-earth guy Bob Backlund really is. WWE Hall of Famer Bob Backlund. And he wanted to share a story about Bob Backlund. And it's funny because Backlund is the second longest reigning champ, right behind Bruno Sammartino, who had nearly 12 years across 2 title reigns. And for Bob Backlund, I know that there's that WWE doesn't officially consider one of his title changes. They just kind of considered him having the title straight through. But it's fascinating to note that Bob Backlund had the belt Bob Backlund, in 2 reigns as champion, he's nearly doubled John Cena's combined days across John Cena's 12 reigns, and none of his reigns have lasted more than a year. And it's funny that even Pedro Morales, who is considered to be sort of a transitional champion, to get the belt to Superstar Graham, it's very interesting that Pedro Morales, in 1 reign as champion, it's that John Cena, he's got the time beat across 12 reigns. So in 12 reigns as champion, John Cena's total combined days are 1,240 days. Pedro in one reign is not even a year less. Pedro had the belt for 1,027 days. So that's something to think about, that John Cena has 12 reigns, and across those 12 reigns that he has only beaten Morales' one reign by under a year. You know, less than just a sliver over 220 days. You know, Bruno was way over 4,000 days with his almost 12 years as champ. Backlund has almost doubled Cena's combined days. John Cena has 1,240 combined days across his 12 reigns as champion. And Bob Backlund nearly doubled it at 2,138. So that's something to think about when you talk about, oh, no one ever holds the belt for very long. It's true. So let's see. Let me go into my inbox here and let's see. Oh yeah, here it goes. Okay, I'm going to read this verbatim because this is kind of a cool story. This is my buddy Jay Figueroa. And he says, I've met a lot of people and never been starstruck, but I met Bob Backlund less than a month ago at a flea market, no less. He's such a super awesome guy. Anyway, we spoke for a while, told him about my old man, his stroke and complications, how back in the late 70s and 80s he went to a zillion shows at Madison Square Garden and the Boston Gardens and saw him beat the Superstar for the title. My connection with Jim Myers through LinkedIn, probably, although I'm not sure, but I think that's what he means. We hit it off so well, he's actually going to attend my dad's 78th B-Day party. Had to go through WWE to get approval, but it's a done deal. Pretty cool, right? Let me stop right there. To say that he's going to WWE probably means that Bob is on a Legends contract with them. But anyway, continue story. He also has me trying to book meet and greets at our local amusement park, Kenobi Lake Park, and other flea markets in the area. It was just surreal to contact these places for a WWE Hall of Famer and the second longest reigning champion. Today I actually booked him at a flea market carnival event. And he says, anyway, I just want to share that with someone that appreciates significance. And that's a lot of fun when you have someone. I think it's great. You know, it's really fun to do that sort of thing. Anywho, so let's see where we're going here. Anyway, carrying onwards, I thought that was kind of a fun thing for Jay, and it shows that, you know, you can meet a WWE superstar anywhere, and they're generally pretty cool. You know, I've worked in wrestling for a while now. I started going to shows about 2000-ish. And I met a lot of guys. A lot have been great. Some have been jerks, but for the most part, they've been pretty righteous. You know, they Demolition Smash, Kevin Nash, Marty Jannetty. Marty Jannetty was the most down-to-earth guy you'll ever meet. Marty was out there partying with the crew from NWA Wisconsin all night long. I'm like, damn, it was pretty cool. But yeah, you know, they're all people too. It's just a lot of fun. And that's what you miss when you go out to, when you just kind of sit at home and watch stuff and you don't go out to see those local independent shows. I know that WWE likes to kind of present the idea that they're the only brand and they're all that matters, but that's not necessarily the truth. It's just, you know, you go out and you see a lot of great guys. And it's a chance to get out and talk and kind of shoot the breeze, and you don't have to worry about, you know, shoot interviews or anything like that. You know, you get to really see what they're like. Just in general. Some more stuff here. My Life, My Power with my friend Daniel Pewter. He is going and he's got a link for Amazon Smile. So if you go there, you can go and, you know, when Amazon prompts you to go and do your purchases, you can do it through Amazon Smile, and they donate 0.5% of your purchase price to My Life, My Power. He's got a link. It's http://smile.amazon.com/ch/45-409-5213. and it would be really super if everyone went and clicked that link when you go shopping on Amazon, and I know you all do. I certainly do everything when I want to get something through Amazon. If I get something through there, I definitely check and make sure that I've got my all my shopping through Amazon Smile, and I do it to My Life, My Power to support Daniel and his charity. My Life, My Power is an anti-bullying charity, 501c3 nonprofit. It's run by the undefeated mixed martial artist and pro wrestler Daniel Puder. Dan has, retired undefeated, and he's actually come back to the ring, and I'm hoping maybe that I can go and book him for something here in Chicago through his charity. Dan and I have talked a couple of times. We've actually talked about maybe getting some merchandising through My Life, My Power, which would be kind of cool, too. So that's that, and then there is the Afterglow fan party. Now, this is really cool, because a lot of people who grew up with the Glow Girls are like, well, what the heck happened to all the Glow Girls? Well, Roxy Astor of Glow kind of got tired of answering that question, so she went and set about to find as many of the Glow Girls as she can, and then she set them up for just a big kind of it's literally a fan party, She just went out there, found the girls, and just had the fans come and just ask them anything they wanted to. It was very, very cool. You can get her first DVD of the show that she did. She's looking to take this thing all on the road, which is really cool. And if you buy the Afterglow Fan Party DVD from us here at Shadowfire Promotions, you can go ahead and get it signed by Roxy Astor. This is her real signature. This isn't replica signature. They're not all pre-signed or anything like that. She signs them. They come straight from her right to you, and they're signed whatever mess you want. You just, when you order them, you say, hey, I want, Roxy to sign it such and such. I want to Dave, love Roxy Astor, or to Dave, you're my hero, whatever. And she'll sign it, which that's pretty cool. That's no additional charge on that. And I believe they are $15 for the DVDs. They might be $20. I got to double check on that. I really do. I'm not sure, but it's one of the two. And if you have any questions, email me at orders@sfpinc chicago.com. I'm free of my own email. Damn. And then I can get to the pricing, anything I mention, because I don't always have my pricing list in front of me here. And I probably should do better about that if I'm going to plug and hype my own stuff, but it's not something I think about. I'm trying to think about some of the stories I want to tell and some other stuff. And speaking of stories and Glow, first off, Glow is teaming up with Carnival Cruise Lines. They're going to have the first official Afterglow fan party cruise. Very cool. I'm going to see if I can book myself onto that. It's going to be next summer. If you give me a second here, I'll get you the exact dates of it, actually. And I'll also give you the link. So the link is aovvacations.com/rw/cruise/5222. And it departs Long Beach, California, May 22nd of 2016, and it visits Long Beach, Catalina, Ensenada. It's a 4-night trip going to Baja, Mexico, and you're on the Carnival cruise ship with the Afterglow fan party. So you're there with Roxy Astor and whichever other of her Glow girls that she can rustle up. There's going to be great stuff with just the Glow girls on there, photo ops, autograph sessions, the actual Afterglow fan party itself, where they could go and just, answer any questions you got. It's very, very cool, and really, it's not that much money. I'm looking at it, and it's only like about $500, per person, which is not bad. Not bad at all. I mean, and it includes a lot of good stuff. Free cocktail party, plus, you get another special gift, stuff with the Glow Girl surprise events. It's gonna be pretty cool. I think I'm definitely looking to try and do that myself. That'd be very cool. And then you go to Long Beach on the first and the last day. There'll be time on shore to visit some place and do a little touristing. There's Catalina and Ensenada on day 3, and There's a day 4 in here that I'm missing, but they don't have it. Oh, I see what it is. Okay, you're at sea on the 4th. You're at sea going from Mexico back to Long Beach on the 4th night. But anyhow, it's very cool. And once again, it's aovacations.com/rw/cruise/5222. Let's see, what else do we got here? I want to make sure to go and if you are in need, if you're an athlete, if you got some problems, definitely, especially if you're a wrestler or a fighter, you can check out Chiro 1, chiropractic office. If you're downtown Chicago, check out the Loop 2 office. They can help you in. If you're an active fighter, active wrestler, they can certainly do a therapeutic adjustment until you get, until you finally retire, and they can start working on bringing back your spine and your neck back into the proper position. Really good place to be. I've been going there when I was thinking about leaving running because I was just too messed up from sleeping in cars, being on the road, and humping a pack in the Marines and everything like that. So they really help me out a lot. So they're very cool. Another friend of mine, K.D. Cormican and Kimberly Cormican, she's got a book, Whatever Makes You Blind. It's a novel. It's very, very good. It's quick reading. It's a night, maybe 2, but it's very good, and you should really check it out. Because when I looked at it, I'm like, oh man, I'm reading this for a friend, but it's not something that I'd be into. But I ended up being into it, so it was very cool. You can check it out on Amazon. You can get it in digital form for your Kindle there. You can get it in paperback. You can email me. I can tell you how to get it. Let's see what else we got here. Oh, and my old buddies, the Wind Gypsies, are a great band. They do a lot of original songs, a lot of covers. Neil Holmquist, Ray Class, Nick Laramie. Great guy, good band, good people. You can check them out at Wind Gypsies. That's Wind, Gypsys, Wind Gypsies. I believe it's windgypsies.com. And as always, we have our own merchandise here. We've got plenty of cool things. We got the Brian Pillman Memorial Show. We got a lot of Frontier Martial Arts Wrestling, a lot of XPW, Extreme Pro Wrestling. We've got some early Ring of Honor. So we got a lot of cool stuff here, a lot of early UFC, a lot of Ultimate Fighting, a lot of good Pride, and of course the Afterglow Fan Party. We got the Glow documentary. We got some programs from the Cauliflower Alley Club. So a lot of cool stuff today. If you need a catalog, you can just email for a catalog at orders@sfpinchicago.com. You can do a lot of other things too. If you email up prices or anything, you want a catalog, I'm in the process of making a new catalog up with some of the recent contracts, the stuff that I've got in. There's a lot of good UK stuff that's just come in from a fan in Australia that's trying to sell some stuff to me. So I'm just trying to get that all organized. So lots of stuff going on, including guests. Guests will be on this podcast soon. I'm not going to tell you who it is yet, but I've definitely got a couple of very important people in wrestling and mixed martial arts to say yes, absolutely, they'd love to. So I'm just in the process of going and researching again from my notes how to go and record a podcast with Skype, how to record it all, how to use it all, all that good stuff. Get myself some headset microphone like I'm a gamer or something to go and learn how to do all that so I can bring a guest on and we'll start interviewing guests. And it's going to be very cool. I've got a lot of cool questions to be asking all these people, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And I hope you all stick with me for that. That'll be coming up next couple of weeks. Really, my schedule's got to clear up a little bit so I can do this on a regular basis again. I want to drop Monday, and this is the second time I'm late. And I need to make sure this is all done. And I need to make sure also that when I do this, when I record this thing, I'm not recording this at, 2 a.m. or something. I need to make sure it's recorded at the proper time. I need to make sure that I schedule a time with this person that I'm actually available at that time. So it's a lot to do. Anyhow, I think that's about it. So once again, make sure to let me know where you're hearing this from, what part of the country you're from. If you're not from this country, where are you downloading it from? Are you downloading this from our site? Are you downloading this from Apple and iTunes? Let me know what you think about all this stuff. Give me some feedback. Say, hey, I got a question. You can send any questions or comments about the podcast specifically to podcast@sfpinchicago.com. Lots of cool stuff available, lots of cool stuff coming up, and we hope that you will all be a part of it. I certainly enjoy hearing from fans and shooting the breeze with you on some stuff. We got some old AWA. I remember had a nice little conversation about the American Wrestling Association and some tapes they had. This person had no idea that Vern Gagne's AWA put out tapes, and they did. So anyway, I will wrap this up. This is actually going to be probably my shortest podcast ever. Most of these things are lasting like 2 hours. They kind of started off as like an hour, and then they kind of went to 2, and my longest, by my 4th one, it became like the longest of 2 hours, and then it became sort of a thing where there was so much going on that it took 2 hours to go through everything. But this time we kind of went through everything really, really quick. I'm actually surprised. I'm a little shocked at that. But anyway, so that about wraps everything up for now. So I'll see you next week, Front Row Ringside.